Welcome back to part 3 of projects. One of the things we talked, so just something that's come into my head, it's really very funny, but when you look at YouTube, the amount of stuff there is on YouTube that's really good to help you get developed in photography is quite vast, but the amount of people that watch it is quite small. But if I make a video tomorrow about the X100F or something like that, there'll be thousands and thousands of people watching it. It's just quite crazy how gear seems to trump great knowledge about photography. And I don't really understand why. I suppose it's because people think that little black box can make their photography better. And if they see that Jim Smith down the road has used this newfangled camera and he got a great photograph, that maybe that's what they should go and do. And then people that start out in photography think it's all about f-stops and numbers because they don't understand the exposure triangle. So anyway, I diversify. It's just crazy. I just had a quick look before I made this to see what's available online for tutorials at that, and there's a vast amount, but people just don't watch it. The numbers are really low per video. Anyway, what I thought I'd try and do today is break down hopefully you've found something you want to shoot this year, and you'll go forward then and decide what you're going to do, when you're going to start, when you're going to start shooting that particular thing you're going to shoot this year, when you're going to finish, hopefully it's done within a year, and go from there. One of the things that I tried to emphasize at the beginning was, if you shoot 20,000 images this year, you've got to edit them down to like 140 for a book. Completely unrealistic. A couple of thousand images would take you ages. And if you sort of do it the way I do it, which is put the whole lot in, say, Lightroom, and then go through and take out the images you don't want until you're left with the 140 you do want, you'll find that's quite a task. So this good learning curve about if you're going to do a project this year is how to edit before you even press the shutter. So I'm going to try and touch on that today. This might be a bit all over the place, but hopefully it'll get there at the end and you'll get something out of it. I'm going to rely on some of my slides from my previous Learning to See workshop and see where we go from there. Now, it's quite funny because when I actually looked at the workshop the other day, I thought I'd teach it again. But it's quite funny how I have actually forgotten most of what was in my head about that workshop. So I'm not going to show you any images today as such, except I will say the interesting thing is we all have an emotional attachment to an image. And that could be a picture of your parents, your sister, your brother, a friend that's died, something. You will have an emotional connection to a pet image or something. There's a deep emotional connection sometimes, and it's because of an event. And we don't have many of those emotional attachment images. I had a dog that died years ago, and it took me years before I could even look at a photograph of him without getting upset and emotional about it. He was 16 years old, he lived a good life, and some of those pictures that I have an emotional attachment to that are really important to me. And once you have that feeling about a particular image and how it makes you feel, you need to remember that for when you take photographs in the future, because that's about an image that means something to you. And a lot of people don't do that anymore. They don't have that, or they've got a photo on their phone maybe, they've never printed it. At the end of the day, we need to look for that emotional connection with an image. And if an image is heavily photoshopped or basically fake or AI, do you have that emotional connection to it? Now, it could be a heavily photoshopped image or AI image of a pet, but it's not the same, is it? It's not the same as an image that you've taken of your pet when you're out for a walk or something like that before it's died or anything like that. I'm not talking about pets because it's easier than talking about relations and relatives, because someone might have had someone recently die. So there's your emotional connection to start you off. So before you press that shutter button, I want you to think, why? Why did you just press that shutter button? Have a really good think about that. Did you really look in that viewfinder and think, wow, I must preserve this image for all time? Did you think, wow, that's like somebody else's, but much better? Did you think, wow, that would be really great on my wall? Did you think, wow, that's another great image for my project? Did you think, wow, this image is going to change the world? A bit like some really famous images like Kappas and that of someone getting shot. Is it going to have that impact on the world? So what I'm getting at is why? Why do you want to press that shutter button? What is it in that image or in that frame that's going to make you think afterwards, that's a really good photograph? At the end of the day, you need a lot of elements to bring it together. So you need to ask yourself, why? Why am I pressing the shutter button today? And if it's because you've been out for 3 or 4 hours and you haven't shot anything, so you just think, well, I'll get that and I'll get that and that looks okay. Well, it's not good enough, because at the end of the day, it's going to create you a load of problems with editing. I know some people that actually go out and shoot thousands of images on a street day. I don't do that. I've got it down to 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 at the most in a day, if that. I shoot single frame as well. I don't shoot on any form of multiple image bursts or anything at all. There is no point. I've learned over the years that if you see it, compose it and shoot it, that single frame is all you need. Now, fine, if you want to go out and your brain doesn't work that quick and you want to shoot thousands of images, go and do it. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to edit that down. And that creates problems on its own. Just remember, when you've taken a photograph and you put it online on Instagram with someone will try and convince you their image is really, really good. It's really, really great. It's fantastic, because they have status. Because they have 30, 40, 50,000 followers. And remember, you don't know how they got them. They will try and convince you that an image they have just taken is the best image ever. You've got to remember, you know nothing about some of these people. Just because they've got 10, 20, 30,000 followers doesn't make that image great. The image has to stand the test of time. Just remember that most of your potential is trapped behind other people's opinions. So when you put that photograph online, your potential next image is trapped behind what people say about that image. So if you put an image on, everyone doesn't like it or share it or comment on it or anything else, then you're not going to take an image like that again. You will tend to go out and take an image to please other people. Some people will say it's great. These people love you. They may be your family, friends, but they don't understand you and they don't understand what you're trying to do with your photography. There's another group out there, once you post your image, that don't want you to see you succeed. So they're gonna not like or not share it or not say anything about it, or maybe even negative about it. And that's because that group of people don't want to see you succeed, don't want you to see you get on. So they just be negative about it. So you have to be very, very careful about what you share, what other people say and do about your images. But the most important thing is, none of those people's opinions matter more than your own. So you must learn to critique your own work. That's the most important thing. And the process of doing a project this year should help you do that. So on the subject of critique, there's, as most of you will know, there's unwanted critique. And unwanted critique is all the trolls and nasty assholes on social media that think they can do you down, whether it be for your photography or anything else in life. Celebrities get bashed all the time by people that don't even know them in real life, and your photography gets bashed by people that haven't got a clue what your photography is about. So unwanted critique, we see more and more of these throughout social media. It used to be horrendous on photography sites. It's not as bad now, but the silence is worse actually. Just because you haven't had 15, 20, 30, 40, 100, 2,000 likes, you think, oh, what have I done wrong? Maybe I shouldn't have posted that. Of course, there's requested critique. A lot of people put on their images, critique welcome. Is it? Is it really welcome? Critique welcome by who? Critique welcome by 20,000 people that haven't got a clue about photography. Critique welcome by people that have just started taking photographs that don't understand. See, Dunning-Kruger effect. Is that critique really wanted? Is it really welcome? And then there's professional critique. Professional critique is what you possibly want, maybe not at this stage, but further down the line. There's a load of people that can do portfolio reviews, but you wouldn't have someone that shoots cranes for a living do a portfolio review of your landscapes. And you wouldn't have someone that shoots portraits for a living have a review of your landscapes. The same as you wouldn't have a landscape photographer review portraits maybe. So you need to go to the right kind of professional and pay the money to get a portfolio review, but depending on what you want for. If you want to go and work for a news agency, you're going to go and speak to that news agency and see what they want and have your portfolio reviewed. So I haven't actually had, yes I have, I tell a lie, I have had a professional portfolio review done by a stock agency. And that's when I was going to do work for a certain stock agency. I had my portfolio reviewed and they gave their opinion on it. And my work wasn't for them. Ironically, I went to another stock agency and my work was for them and I sold tons of it. So just because it isn't right for one thing, it could be right for another. And some people say an image is shit, but at the end of the day, you could sell thousands and thousands of copies of it online. So you have to be really, really careful. So what makes a great image? What do you need to keep in your mind when you're going out with your camera to take a photograph? Light, composition, moment, emotional impact, and great subject. The light does matter. If it's great light, you'll even see people commenting on your photograph, great light, amazing, this, that, and the other. But it could be a flat day and you don't have the great light, but you might have a really great composition and that will start to pull it together. And then a moment will happen, like some of the Cartier-Bresson moments or some of the moments you see in other people's photographs where it pulls it all together. There's a famous image a few years ago of a drunk lying down holding a bottle that looked like a famous painting. Well, that's a moment that actually pulled it all together. It may have not been the best light, even though the light wasn't too bad. But that starts to pull it all together. Emotional impact, how do people feel about your image when they see it? How do you feel about your image? So light, composition, moment, emotional impact, and great subject all come together to create the impact within an image. If you don't have some of those elements, some of them might be stronger and pull it together. So when you're going to press that shutter button, you need to think about that. Running around going click, 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 and hitting and hoping and spraying and hoping doesn't really cut it. It really doesn't. Are we looking for technical perfection? Not always. If you look at Cartier-Bresson, some of Cartier-Bresson's images, you know, they're not quite in focus, they're blurry, this, that, and the other. But the image has a lot of the other elements in it. So it's all right me saying that technical perfection doesn't cut it. And that'll just give some people an excuse to go out and shoot shit, rush around, take blurry images, put it online and go, but yeah, but this is great. But it's not great. You have to have all these elements that come together. So has it got, for instance, drama, soul, mood, atmosphere, creativity, raw emotion, a personal connection? Has it got some of these elements and some of these things in it? If not, really rethink about the day you press that shutter button, or the minute you press that shutter, or the second you press that shutter button. Have a think about drama, soul, mood, atmosphere, emotional impact. It's so important. And the reason that you like someone else's photographs because you have a personal connection to it, or emotional connection to it, or it evokes raw emotion in you. So if you haven't got that in your own images, what do you expect other people to think about it? When you're photographing people, sometimes there's connected moments. Those connected moments between you, the artist, and your subject are quite important. Now, they don't have to be eye contact or anything like that. And as you all know, the way I shoot because I don't want to change the dynamic in the scene. So there has to be a connection sometimes between the elements in the scene, or the light in the scene, and the people in the scene, or something's happening in the scene, or the way the light falls, or the way you use your artistic creation when taking that photograph. So pulling these things together in a frame in a fraction of a second is quite difficult, but the more you think about these things, the better you become at seeing them, and the easier it is to press that shutter button and create something. When I actually go out and shoot, some days are horrendous. I go out, I take 2 or 3 photographs, I don't feel it, and I come home. And when I used to shoot every day, which I'm hoping to get back to sometime this year, being in the zone is like smelling fresh coffee in a coffee shop and you're being drawn towards it. Or, you know, that smell of fresh bread, and you're running around and you're grabbing a shot and grabbing a shot and grabbing a shot, and you think, oh, that's great, that's great, that's it. So you're in the zone. All those elements are coming together in your head and you're managing to capture them through the camera lens, and you get home and you've got loads of keepers. Obviously, I still edit them down to 2 or 3, and everyone else will think, oh, why have you got rid of that? Why have you got rid of that? And as I've said before, because the next best photograph I'm ever going to take is out there. And if I just keep all this stuff, stick it on a hard drive and go back to it later on when it's winter and it's cold and I don't want to go out, I'm not producing my best work and putting it online. I'm just putting something that I took and I used as second best before. And if it's second best before, it's still second best today. The really good stuff's still out the front door. When you take something and people use subjective, people that are really, really bad photographers, see Dunning-Kruger effect again, can use subjective to say, well, it's subjective, isn't it? So that means they have now an excuse to not do all the things I've said and just take what they want and put it online and say, but it's subjective, isn't it? but no one else can see what you can see. If it's shit, everyone else thinks, well, it may be subjective, mate, but it is the emperor's new clothes and it is shit. So you have to really, really think about that one. I go back to a few years ago and we were looking online and some horrendous situation happened with a photographer was talking about subjectivity. He took a really cheap shot of a large lady bent over with all the cellulite on her legs and this, that and the other. And people online were absolutely slagging this poor lady off, right? I would call that an ugly image, and it's an image you shouldn't be taking. It's a cheap shot. It's designed to make people comment, which pushes his image up because it's being liked and shared, but it's not being liked and shared for the right reasons. You'd be better off taking a happy image and having people thinking, oh, that's really uplifting. That makes me feel really good about myself. And then that's a better way to go forward. At the end of the day, I am slightly wrong as far as when we're talking about war photography of people getting shot and killed. That can change a whole war if it's done properly. Sometimes it can't, sometimes it can. These days, the reason they shoot war photographers is that so those images can't get out and the whole war changes just because one photographer could change it. A cheap shot is a cheap shot no matter what happens. I've said it for years, all the time I ever taught. I said, don't shoot children, don't shoot the homeless, don't shoot this and don't shoot that. And that's because I don't want people to do that on my workshops. It doesn't mean to say they can't shoot it, but you have to be able to do it in a creative way to tell a story. Not just in, the homeless debate will go on forever and ever and ever, and I'm not going to talk about the homeless debate. But at the end of the day, it's easy to go downtown. I could go downtown tomorrow and take thousands of pictures of homeless people. What does it say? Nothing. Until I have an angle to take those photographs, to do some justice to the scene and to change homelessness maybe, then it's a waste of time. I can't remember, I think it was Jeffries used to do it and he did a really, really good job of it, and he did some work for the Salvation Army. So good luck to him. There is that magic image that comes like the one taken on that New Year's Eve with the guy lying in the bottle with the road in Manchester. It's a magic image because all those elements I've spoken about earlier all come together and they all work. And when they all come together and they all work and you create a magic image, that's the one. The magic image is the one that will go viral in seconds around the world because it will just get picked up on and everyone will see it. And that's what you should be doing every day, going out looking for that. That magic image will transform your work and lift your work. One of the reasons I don't shoot with any other photographers, I shoot on my own, is because if you see photographers' work that all shoot together, they've all taken roughly the same shot from a different angle sometimes. They all see something and they all take a photograph of it, and then all their social media feeds have the same image on it, from a slightly different angle. The rule I have when I go out and shoot with some of my friends is whoever sees it first takes it, because that way you haven't all got the same images in the same feeds. There's a group of people I used to know that used to go to the same car shows and the same this and the same that, and they'd all have the same photograph of the same car taken at a slightly different angle. It was a bit ridiculous really, because all their social media feeds actually looked the same. It looked like it was the same person's feed, just putting images in from different angles. So if you want to get known for your work, the last thing you need to do is have your work the same as the person sitting next to you. So going forward this year as well, black and white or colour, shoot what you like. If you look at Instagram, you will notice that the black and white only feeds and the colour only feeds have better hits and a hit ratio and a better following than a mixed feed, just the way it is. I can't remember some of the names, I've forgotten, and it's very difficult to think. But if you look down the feed, you'll see the difference. Mine are a bit mixed these days, but I try to stick to sort of black and white. And if you're going to shoot a project, you decide what you're going to shoot it as, but don't mix it up throughout the year. I think it complicates things. It's personal choice, but I think it complicates things. What I was talking about just now about shooting with other people, it's a bit like shooting the same thing over and over again. I've just started doing a little bit of a thing with a coffee shop locally. But because I've looked at it over and over again, and I'm not going to go into the reasons today why I'm probably not going to do that as a project, you can end up diluting your work and people get sick of the same old thing over and over again. It's a bit like there's always, I can't remember the name of the train station in London, but there's a certain train station, everyone goes there and everyone takes the picture. All they're doing is diluting their work because suddenly you've just done the same landscape, the same photograph, the same place, the same building, just looking for someone else coming through. It doesn't work. It's just diluting your own work. It's not making your work great, it's just adding your work to everyone else's. And the worst thing about that is, I think it was Christian Cross or someone shot this amazing photograph in London quite a long time ago with angel wings on the wall. The first time it was done, brilliant, fantastic. Then after that, everyone went there because they'd seen his shot and they shot it to death. Absolutely, you just get bored with it after the sort of like 400 or 500th time. Yes, there could be a moment where the best person ever walks past those wings, but by the time you've seen all the others, it's lost, it's absolutely diluted. Social media is a bit of a killer for your own work, to be honest with you, because you're getting other people's opinions all the time, which is what I've said earlier on, is do you want all these other people's opinions? Do you need these other people's opinions? Do you take any notice of these other people's opinions? Well, deep down inside you do. So if you put your work out there as you're shooting a project this year, you're going to get all those opinions, or you're going to get a lack of opinions, and then it might change the way you think about your project. But trust me, just get on with your project. Go to some museums, go and look at some art. I've said that on the last one. Have a look at artists and the way they paint pictures, and have a look in an art gallery and see what people are looking at. See what is amazing from the past. Remember, what you shoot today won't be relevant for the future. At the end of the day, you must shoot for you and you alone. So hopefully you'll start a project this year. Sadly, most of you won't. Most of the people watching this, some people have already turned off already. They got bored and they've gone away, and they don't think this is going to help them because they think that next Sony AR7 is going to be the best thing, or they think the new Nikon whatever is going to help them. But actually, this project this year would actually help them more. You need to come up with an idea. I've said that before, but you need to come up with your own idea. You need to set a start date. I always start on the 1st of January. You need to set an end date. I always finish on the 31st of December. You need to try and get your body of work together through that period of time, whether you put it online or not. In some ways, it is helpful to put it online. And the reason is because once you start a project, you announce you're doing a project, you put it online, even if you do a new Instagram page. And then what happens is people talk about your project and like your work and share your work, and that motivates you to keep on with it. So sometimes it's a really good idea. You definitely need to make a book at the end. Don't fail to make a book or a zine. When you get to the end of it all and you create a book, decide how many images are going to go in it. Don't go much over 100. 140 I did once, but that was maximum. I'd keep it to around about 100, no more than 140-ish. And one thing you must do once you've completed the whole project is choose your favorite image from this year. One image, choose one image. Remember, once you've chosen that one image, your best image from the whole of 2024, that is your best image. Really, all the rest are all irrelevant, because 2025, you need to beat that one. And 2026, you need to beat that one, or be more creative. And then you can use that as a benchmark for going forward, a bit like we've talked about before with powerlifting and everything else. If you can lift 10 kilos and next year you can lift 20 kilos and the next year you can lift 30 kilos by training. Well, you can train your brain to learn more about photography and improve your photography by looking at your images and looking at the way everything comes together and all the elements come together. That's the last one in this series. I'm going to let you get on with your projects now, and I hope you really, really enjoy shooting this project this year. Come and find me on social media, on Instagram, and send me some messages on there, right in here if you want to. And I look forward to seeing what you can produce at the end of this year. Just remember, don't rush into it. What you want to do is finish this project at the end of December 2024, but then really think about what book you want to put it in and making your book. And it may take a month to 2 months to lay that book out and get it perfect. And that's the way to do it. But I've already taught you how to look at a photograph before you even take the photograph and edit it down. And that should really, really help you in the future. So photography is all about contradictions. Shoot sharp images. Don't shoot sharp images. Shoot close to home. Travel. Try new things. Shoot black and white. Shoot colour. Listen to critique. Work it out for yourself. The truth is, photography is all about the moment. The few seconds when you press the shutter button, and it's your interpretation of that exposure and what you see in that frame. Don't follow the rules. Shoot for you and yourself only. Look at the world around you. Look at the parts that interest in you and go and shoot that. Have fun, enjoy your project, and I'll catch you on the next video.